It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the Nazareth Golden Flyers head men's lacrosse coach, Coach Rob Randall. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Brandon, how are you?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get started in coaching in college men's lacrosse?
Um, yeah, I had always thought about it as a little kid, thinking it would be really cool to be a coach. Not really sure that it was lacrosse related or not, but I wanted to pursue that. And then, as I got older, I thought about doing a lot of other things and pursuing some other things and thinking about teaching and being a guidance counselor. And ultimately, I got back into the whole college coaching concept, because my college coach at the time asked me after my senior year if I would be interested in staying involved in a coaching capacity when I was done playing. So
Of
that's
course,
kind of, in a very short answer, that's kind of how that came about.
what was your playing career like playing for Nazareth?
It was great. It was a great end to my career. I had transferred in here, and Scott Nelson was the coach, and he was a great coach and a great leader and a great friend. And it was a really good experience for me to be able to play lacrosse here and be a part of a very young program at the time that I feel like I had something to do with helping to build the tradition of what is now Nazareth lacrosse.
Of course, as a player, what was that experience like getting to put on that purple jersey, and what were some of your biggest accomplishments as a player?
Well, it was really cool to be able to put on the uniform, and be part of, like I said, a younger program. My biggest accomplishments were, being an All-American and being the MVP of our team at the time. But really, more importantly, just trying to be as great a teammate as I possibly could be and as good a leader as I possibly could be.
Of course, coming out of college, what was it like getting started in coaching lacrosse on the club level?
It was a challenge because I was, when I first got into coaching, I was coaching kids, trying to coach kids that I had played with. So it was really a challenge to try and separate your friendships and then taking on a responsibility from a leadership standpoint. That was a little bit of a challenge, and I'm sure that anybody that has gone through a situation like that where they step into a coaching role after being on a team, on that same team with all the same players, it's a bit of a challenge.
Of course, what was that experience like getting to work on the club level before getting your start on the collegiate level?
Um, it was actually when I got into coaching, it was here at Nazareth, and it was with the school, so it really wasn't a club program. It was a college program at the time.
Of course, what was that feeling like getting inducted to Hall of Fames as a coach?
It's great, but it's really just a product of surrounding yourself with really good people. And I can't say that I can take a whole lot of credit for it, because it was, when anybody accomplishes anything from an individual level, it's very much a team level, a family level, a yourself with great people level. So it's great. It's certainly a great accomplishment, but I don't really look at it as an individual accomplishment.
What was your experience like getting to go to Army West Point and getting to become the assistant coach?
It was really cool. It was a great experience for me. I mean, to work for a legendary coach in Jack Emmer and be a part of the whole West Point and Army experience was a really cool thing to learn about. Something that I is very unique and um, is not your traditional college environment. It was a great opportunity for me to learn a lot about different athletes and different people and very different processes.
Of course, what was that transition like from going from coaching at Army as a service academy to then going to Sacred Hearts to coach?
Well, actually, it was the other way around. I went from Sacred Heart to West Point, and it was kind of unique because I went from being a head coach for 4 years at Sacred Heart University to being a full-time assistant at West Point. And it was a bit of a challenge going from being a head coach to an assistant coach, but it was a great experience nonetheless.
While at Sacred Hearts, what were some of your coaching accomplishments?
Well, I mean, it was my first head coaching experience, and there was a lot of challenges that went along with that. Coming off a national championship here at Nazareth as an assistant, and then taking on a brand new program in Fairfield, Connecticut. Trying to just recruit student athletes to build a program was a challenge. Again, meeting great people and surrounding myself with great people, not only the student athletes at Sacred Heart, but also the people in the athletic department, as well as across the university, really helped me and really guided me to try to become the best coach that I could become.
Of course,
Fortunately, we were able to win a few games while I was there.
after your time at Army, what was it like going to SUNY and becoming the head coach at SUNY?
That was honestly more of a family move for me. My roots and my wife's roots are in upstate New York, and so my family was here. My parents were here. My wife's parents were still around, and we wanted to get our young kids, who were probably 3 and 1 at the time, back to upstate New York, and we thought it was going to be the best opportunity for us to be able to move back and coach there, and for our young kids to experience, cousins and aunts and uncles and grandparents.
Of course, while there, what were some of your biggest coaching accomplishments?
Um, we didn't win a whole lot of games. I was only there for one short year, and that was not the intention by any means. But I think I instilled a winning attitude. And while that one year we did not win a lot of games, they took a lot of those recruits that we brought in and won a lot of games over the course of the next 4 years there.
How did you take what you learned throughout your coaching stops to help you along your way to Nazareth?
Oh boy. I think the biggest thing that I've learned along the way is to number one, you have to work hard at anything that you do. You have to have the right attitude. You have to be a great teammate, and whoever you surround yourself with. But probably the most important thing is to be able to show the ability to get along with people and help guide them through a lot of different roads and detours and obstacles that they're going to come across. And if you can surround yourself with good people, it makes your job a heck of a lot easier.
Of course, what was that feeling like for you to come back home to your alma mater to become the next head coach?
It was honestly a dream come true for me. It was a really cool thing to be able to come back to Nazareth after graduating from here and playing here and coaching here as an assistant, and to come back in this capacity as the head coach was always something that I had in the back of my mind. I wasn't sure if it was ever going to happen for me, but certainly, very glad that it did, and it's been a great run, great role to be in, and it's just been an awesome experience.
Of course, coming back, how was that feeling like the first time you got to step onto that field as a head coach?
It was pretty special. Fortunately, back in, when was that? 2001. In my very first game, we played Washington College, and there was a huge rivalry between Nazareth College and Washington College at the time. And they came up here from Chestertown, Maryland, and we beat them in my first game as the head coach at Nazareth. So it was a really special experience, and the kids were really involved, and they presented me with a game ball after the game, and so it was a really neat thing to be a part of.
What does a typical game day look like for you as a head coach?
It really depends on what's going on. Not only with, the particular game, whether it's a home game or an away game, whether it's a midweek game or a weekend game, but also what's going on with my family. If my kids had a game, I might be at a game that Saturday morning before I came over to campus. I'd get here by, noon or maybe a little before if it was a 2:00 afternoon game. And then, just try and prepare ourselves for the game. A lot of the preparation, at least from a personnel standpoint, is done prior to the morning of the game. So there's not a whole lot that goes on, but, just kind of getting yourself into the mode of the game, and being here and being present and living in the moment, and trying to get the guys as organized and ready as we possibly can for that afternoon game, whether it's a weekday game or a weekend game.
Can you talk about, of course, the culture that you've built for the program?
Yes, I can. I think we try to, not I think, I know that we try to focus a lot on our culture, and building characters of strong leadership. We really try to focus on character. We really try to focus on hard work. We really try to focus on attitude. We really try to focus on coachability, and we really try to focus on leading these young men, and guiding them along through their process. And some of it has to do with X's and O's as a coach, but mostly it has to do with trying to guide them to be the best versions of themselves on the field, off the field, in the classroom, socially. And we talk about that stuff each and every day with these guys. And the older I get, the less it has to do, less important the lacrosse piece is, and more important the character piece is for just trying to guide them along, because it's a long road for sure. And if they can take something that they've learned here through this experience and have them become better through a much more challenging experience that they're going to have later on in life, then hopefully, we've done something right here.
Who are some of the
We really try to focus on the culture and building leaders of character.
Who are some of the teams that you face each week?
Well, we're in the Empire 8 conference, so all the Empire 8 schools, a lot of upstate New York schools. But traditionally we'll play what we feel is one of the hardest schedules in the country in Division 3, and that's the likes of RIT and Cortland and St. Lawrence and Clarkson and some teams in New England and some of the NESCAC schools. So, it changes each year, but those are some of the consistent teams that we'll play year in and year out.
What is that home game atmosphere like when those teams come to your home facility?
It can be pretty cool if it's a nice spring day here. We'll draw a nice crowd of maybe 2,000 or 3,000 people on a Saturday afternoon, and there'll be tailgating going on in the parking lot, and a lot of parents around, a lot of friends, and a lot of people from the community will be involved. So it's a really cool college lacrosse experience for the kids, for the coaches, for the fans. It's a fun thing to be a part of, for sure.
Of course, what was that 2017 season like, going to the NCAA tournament and making your 10th NCAA berth appearance?
It's what we try to accomplish year in and year out. Our goal is to always win our conference and to make the NCAA tournament. It was a really special thing. That was the first time that we had won 2 conference championship playoff games in overtime. We were on the road for both of those games, so it was kind of extra special. But to win on that in the semifinals in overtime down at Ithaca, and then to have to travel down to Stevens and again win in overtime, it was a really special thing to be able to do it on the road. We've done it on the road before that, but to do it in overtime with both those games was a really cool thing. And in lacrosse, I don't know how familiar you are with the game, but if you get to overtime, and really anything can happen. So it comes down to being a good team, but also having some luck on your side as well.
Of course, as a head coach, what has that been like, obviously getting to take those teams to the NCAA tournament berth appearances?
I mean, it's really cool. It's a fun experience, and as I said, it comes down to being around the guys, and we want to be around the guys for as long as we possibly can. And to be able to make the conference tournament or to make the NCAA tournament and get an extra week or 2 or 3 or 4 to practice and be around the guys and continue to build that culture day in and day out. It's a fun experience. It's just an awesome thing to be a part of.
What does that recruitment process look like for those prospective student athletes looking to play men's lacrosse?
It's quite a process, and it gets more challenging each and every year. I think not only for us coaches who are doing this, but also for the prospects and their families, because there's so many really good options out there for these student athletes to pursue. And there's a lot of kids out there for us coaches to pursue. So, to try and identify these student athletes that we think can be a good mix for Nazareth or for any other school, it's a challenge. And, the first thing that we try to do is identify them as by their athletic ability. That's the first and foremost thing that stands out. And then, they have to make sure that it's a good fit for them from a size standpoint of the school, from a proximity to home, from a location, from a facilities standpoint, from what all these different schools are all about. And then then we got to make sure it's a good fit for them academically, and to make sure that we have the majors that they're interested in pursuing, and that they have the academic background to be admitted to a place like Nazareth. So, you know, there, and that's really just skimming the surface of trying to explain to you what the process is all about. You know, there's visits involved, there's numerous communication and dialogue that goes on with these student athletes and their families, and questions on both sides, and answers, and um, a lot of different lines of communication that have to be opened up. So it's a long, lengthy process. But you know, it's also a great process, and it's again another opportunity to meet these young men and their families. So
Of course, what does that official visit look like when those prospective student athletes come to campus and fall in love with the facility?
yeah, I mean, I don't know what it's like at all these other institutions, but for us, it's having these kids visit again, and by that time, it's usually a second or third visit to campus, and that official visit would usually happen early in the fall for us of their senior year, and they come in and they go through an overnight visit, and they're able to watch us practice or play a game in the fall, and sleep in the resident halls with our guys as hosts for them, and eat in the dining halls, and perhaps get to a class or two, and kind of just have a day in the life of what it's like to be a Nazareth lacrosse player. So I think it's a pretty good learning experience on both ends. But honestly, by that time for us, we have a pretty good handle on where their interest lies with the college, and also, you know, how interested we are with them. You know, so that's kind of like the last thing. And usually by then we have a really good idea that those student athletes are going to be attending Nazareth the following year.
As a head coach for Nazareth, what is that like getting to see them put on that same jersey that you put on freshman year?
You know, I think that would be more of a question for the student athlete, but I think it's really pretty cool. And you know, to be able to sport those colors and play for a championship, and be around 40 or 50 other guys, you know, who are all trying to pursue the same goals, is a really neat thing.
Of course, what is that feeling like seeing those freshmen blossom into seniors throughout their career as a collegiate player?
Yeah, that's a really good question too, Brendan. To see these kids come in, you know, with like deer in the headlight eyes as incoming freshmen for orientation, and then to see them develop and grow and mature athletically, physically, academically, mentally, to see these kids grow is probably the number one most gratifying thing that I can see from these guys. And that growth takes place in so many different ways. And they leave here as graduating seniors, you know, as young men, young mature men who I know are gonna get out in the real world and pursue great things. You know, so that probably, to me, you know, despite wins and losses and all the ups and downs and the peaks and valleys that we go through over the course of a 4-year time frame, that piece, to see these kids grow and mature in so many different ways, is unbelievably gratifying.
Of course, as a head coach, what is it like getting to see those players live out their dreams of making it to the National Lacrosse and the Premier Lacrosse League?
Well, to be honest with you, at the Division III level, there's not that many kids that are pursuing playing at a professional level. There are some exceptions for sure. And we've had a number of them, but it's a challenge for them to try and take their game to a different level. However, we do have many of our guys that will play in summer leagues or at you know, summer tournaments. We have a great contingent of teams, two teams in particular that play in the Lake Placid tournament, that are made up of our younger group of alums and our older group of alums. And to me, to see that and to really have like an alumni weekend in Lake Placid each August is another really cool thing to be a part of.
Of course, what are some of your future plans for the Nazareth program moving forward?
I don't think, our goals have really changed at all. I mean, obviously we want to try and be as competitive as possible. But as I said, there's so much more to it than just winning lacrosse games. And, so just continuing to work with these great young men and guide them along through this process of their young adult life and help them grow and mature, and hopefully some of the experiences that they have as a Nazareth lacrosse player will help them in their decision-making process when things become a lot more important than picking up a ground ball or scoring a goal or making a stop or winning a game for that matter. There's so much more to it than just all those things.
What advice would you give those freshmen entering their first year of collegiate men's lacrosse?
I mean, we try to bring in a lot of kids each year. The advice that I would give them is that number one, they have to be willing to be a great teammate. They have to be willing to put the effort in. If you can't do those two things, I think it's really tough to make it here. And probably tough to make it anywhere for that matter. But I think that the hard work, the ability to be a great teammate, and to have the right attitude, those are attributes that we're always looking for in these young men.
What advice would you give those players that are looking to play professionally, whether it's the National Lacrosse League or the Premier Lacrosse League?
Again, I think it's the same stuff. They have to be willing to work hard, because it's not easy, especially coming from a D3 institution, to try and make it at the professional level. So I think the hard work and just having the right attitude and taking advantage of situations that arise, and really making the most of any type of a playing opportunity that may arise for them.
What advice would you give those players that are looking to get into college coaching after their collegiate career?
I think that number one, they have to be able to separate themselves from being a player. Number two, I think they have to be themselves, and every coach coaches differently. And there's a lot of ways to skin a cat, and there's a lot of ways to be a great coach effectively. But I think just being yourself and the willingness to work with individuals to help them improve, and really almost do just about anything to help guide them, and know that there's going to be a lot of trials and tribulations and a lot of ups and downs along the way, especially for a young coach getting into it, and the willingness to do anything to be a part of a program, and again, associating yourself with great people, I think can help put you in a great environment.
What advice would you give those assistant coaches that are looking to become assistant coaches and then make their way to become head coaches?
Well, there's a big difference between being an assistant coach and a head coach. And I think that, to become a great leader, you have to be a great follower first. And so that's something that we talk to our guys about, our players, but it's also something that we talk to our assistant coaches about. And I think, just being organized, being an effective communicator, showing that you care and you have concern for these players. I think again, willingness to work hard and willingness to be around good people, and knowing that there's a lot of different ways, and showing flexibility. But knowing that there's a lot of different ways to be effective. And your way isn't always the best way, and willingness to learn. Those are some of the characteristics that I think somebody that's an assistant coach would need and have to have in order to develop into a great young head coach.
Of course, what advice would you give those future head coaches looking to start their own program and build their own legacy and even work at their alma mater like you have?
Well, to build their own program, it's a really tough thing. I think anytime you go from one program to another, whether it's head coach or assistant coach, it's a challenge. And again, showing that flexibility to be the, understanding that there's a lot of different ways to be effective. But building your own program is really challenging. And Scott Nelson did it here. And I was a part of it at a very young level of the program. And then I had the opportunity to do it at Sacred Heart. It's a challenge. I mean, it is really a challenge to start a program. And there was many times when I was wondering if I got into the right line of work, because, you question a lot of things every single day as a young coach. At least I did. And to try and get kids involved in your program and recruit kids to a program that doesn't exist is not an easy thing to do. So I think it's just, the desire to do it, and the want, and understanding that it's a tough road. It's a tough road. And but if you are set and you have those goals and you're willing to put in the time and the effort, you can make it happen.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media, along with the Nazareth men's lacrosse program at?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on Facebook and Twitter, and I'm not a huge social media guy, to be honest with you. But at Nazareth Lacrosse, and I'm happy to help anybody out as best as I possibly can. But also, just through contacting me through email is probably as good a way as any to reach out should anybody have any questions.
Thank you again, Coach Rob Randall, for your interview, and best of luck in your future as the Nazareth head men's lacrosse coach.
Great. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach Rob Randall, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
Thank you, Brandon.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.